Hello everyone! Hallowfall is the third leveling zone for the War Within. We've heard rumors from the Irvin up above that they've had Arathi visitors, so we join a curious Anduin and we go deeper down into Azeroth, into a massive cavern that is lit up by a crystal like the sun. I haven't been able to figure out what exactly the crystal is, but Anduin says that it's not Azerite, the blood of Azeroth to be collected during Battle for Azeroth, but it is close enough that he thinks they're connected. The light of the crystal has allowed vegetation to grow and flourish down below, and the moment we step into the zone, the radiant song rings out. A voice in Anduin's head. Anduin. But he's not the only one that can hear this particular tune. In the zone, we meet with Arathi that are following the visions of their emperor, a prophecy of light, to fight in something called Renilash, the final battle between light and dark. Their armada has set out 15 years ago. They braved the storming sea with its impassable tempests. The storming sea has been mentioned recently in books added with the Dragonflight Emerald Dream patch. Keeper Tear said that only ruin lies beyond the storming sea, but the green dragon Erenefria refused to be chained by fear. Some believe that she was lost to the storming sea, while others claim that they saw her in their dreams, that she reached a land beyond, where she raised a brood of her own. Seeing the Arathi right here heavily confirms that there is another side to Azeroth completely unexplored. A part of the planet, or at least a landmass, hidden behind an impassable storming sea. That would also explain how all of a sudden we have so many of these Arathi hanging around, as the Arathi Empire, or the Empire of Arathor on our side of the world, it is all but evaporated into city-states. The history is that once upon a time, the early humans, they lived in individual tribes, until Thoradin of Arathor, he decided that man is stronger together, and he will unify them through politics, diplomacy, or violence into the first human kingdom. They became such a powerhouse that the High Elves of Quel'Thalas also took notice. They saw them as a potential ally against the hostile Amani trolls, and together, after teaching the humans some of the magics, the alliance of High Elf and humans decimated the Amanis. After that, it was party time. Considering our new friends are half elf, half humans, I guess the party was really good. Over time, this kingdom would spread out and split up into places like Lordaeron, Dalaran, Gilneas, but apparently a whole bunch of them also somehow ended up beyond those storms, as our land is mentioned as the Old Worlds. That's where these Arathi come from, and only time will tell what their home is like, their emperor, their way of life. Will they be friends or will they be foes? Who knows? So the Armada is sent out by the Emperor and nearly loses themselves to the storms. Instead, there was a radiant flash, the Emperor's vision, exactly as he had foreseen. The light transported them beneath the surface of Azeroth, but still under the light of this star that they named Beladar. So many died as the Armada crashed into the cliffs, including all of their high mages, so the knowledge of making a portal back home is lost. They also thought their eternal flame of Arathor was snuffed out that day, but it was not. It was saved by the most unexpected thing, a small stowaway child that wasn't even supposed to be there. Therein Lothar, stowed away to escape a family that only ever saw her as a failure, and lost an eye and an arm for the trouble. In town, she is offered a new prosthetic arm.
Thank you, Rain. But the shield you made me is all I need. I'm sure your talents would be better spent on other inventions.
It's my pleasure to make a new arm you would use. You told me about the discomfort and how it impacted your mobility, so I was thinking...
Rain? No. I have lived with my injury since I was a child. I've learned to do everything from sword fighting to dressing myself with one hand.
But what if I figured out the weight balancing? You said that was what you didn't like about the first few I made.
Then I think some of our veterans who will lose an arm to the Nerubians will be very grateful that you've improved the design. Rain, I've learned to navigate my life without a prosthetic. I don't want to relearn everything, but if you want to improve something of mine, a better shock absorber on the shield would be a blessing of the flame. Those Nerubians are getting bigger, and it puts all that weight on the shoulder.
Lance and shield at her sides, as she braves the darkness as a lamplighter, where others would retreat or hide in the homes of the darkness. She is part of the ones that shine bright in the darkness, the brave Arathi that light the way forward. So, a stowaway child was able to save their eternal flame of Arathor, preserve embers of that flame, at risk to her own life, holding on to that symbol of hope. Lore lovers will definitely recognize the family name Lothar.
Did I hear that right earlier? You're, Lothar?
You know the name?
Know it. I was named for Anduin Lothar, one of Stormwind's greatest heroes. He was close friends with my grandfather, King Lane Rin. Few names hold higher esteem. You must be a lady, or...
Oh no, don't you start using formalities on me. My family is noble, but it's been long since we've seen great fortune. To think I had relatives in the old world. Wonderful. I hope I can live up to such legends.
15 years ago, they arrived here. Farron, still a child. And then 10 years ago, when we were fighting the Legion on the surface during the expansion Legion, they set up the city of Meteldar. Now please keep in mind, Alpha will be Alpha, and I'm trying to put pieces of the puzzle together, but it makes sense, because we were fighting the Legion in year 32, whereas Dragonflight was year 40. No time skip has been mentioned, and the normal trend is around a year or two per expansion. That would then put the War Within at year 42, exactly 10 years after Legion. Farron was the only child when they arrived here, and they founded an orphanage for her, which to me sounded a little bit weird. Not impossible, of course, but if at the time she was the only child, and she has this history of doing this heroic thing of saving her flame, wouldn't there have been one family willing to take her in? Why did they need to build an orphanage for just one child? These days, as time passes on and they put roots in Hallowfall, more families have been formed, more children are born. Now seeing how there's plenty of creatures that go bump in the dark, more orphans are made as well. So it's a good thing to be prepared, I suppose. It's a good thing they have this orphanage. Their flame, their holy light, has been able to secure areas and keep the darkness at bay. Darkness that houses enemies like the Nerubians or the Kobis. Kobis being fish creatures that like to eat their victims while they're still alive. Of course, having a big old shiny crystal in the ceiling doesn't hurt either. But there was a day of darkness in which it suddenly turned from bright and light to dark and void. The day Sargeras plunged his sword into Azeroth. Which means that the speculation of this being the tip of the sword, it's truly and well dispelled, as the crystal was already there. They also confirmed that the Arathi know about the Black Empire, and that Xal'atath is not an old god but something else. A survivor from the depths of time. A lot of room for speculation there. Same with why the crystal is turning dark. There's some reason. Perhaps Sargeras managed to damage it. Perhaps some of the corruption of his sword was able to sink in. Perhaps Azeroth's weakened state allowed N'Zoth to make use of it. Perhaps Xal'atath being used to drain the corruption from the weapon actually did the opposite. There are plenty of scenarios to think of to be explained, but what is certain is that in the dark, some of the Arathi's faith began to falter. Elric Lead, our main antagonist for the zone, they left a worn-down book. Standing here, the closest I have been to Beledar, the truth that is deep within my heart tells me that I have been fooled. We came here seeking this sacred flame, and all we have found is a deeper struggle. We are fighting on the losing side of a war that will never end. Is the light, the flame, true salvation? Is it? All I see is darkness around me. Around Beledar, so much of it seems infinite. It is time to embrace the only truth. The light of the star is just an anomaly within this vast ocean of darkness. I am the seeker of darkness. I am deprived of all hope. In my very heart is shadow. I am the harbinger of the night. The incredibly edgy Elric sides with Xal'atath and works on corrupting more of their light, turn more of the areas to the shadow. That is the major conflict in the zone as we go through it. Anduin, Farron, and Illyria at our sides. We learn about the Arathi, the crystal, all the things that I just explained. A big part is also Anduin's struggle with his connection to the light. He is afraid that the light won't answer his call. Not after the events of the Shadowlands, and he is not wrong to be afraid. The light has always shown to respond to conviction, not morality, and Anduin is anything but convinced that he is worthy. Worthy to lead his people, worthy to call upon the light, worthy to even be amongst friends or loved ones.
I have no light. Not after what I've seen. Not after what I've done.
Farron guides him in this, shows her view on life and the light, while the absent King of Stormwind desperately wants to help, he can't call the light, no matter how much he might wish. For a moment, I was afraid that they were going to resolve all of this in a single zone. Simply hold his hand and guide him back to the light. But thankfully, it gets treated a lot better and not resolved at all. Perhaps even the opposite. At some point, we sit down at a tavern to have some drinks, and we have a chat. To which Anduin says, "It felt like me. I remember the rage. I remember the hate. I remember the exhilaration. Satisfaction even. Were they my emotions or his? I don't know, but I felt them. In my nightmares, I still feel them." Anduin sighs. Maybe Farron's right. Maybe I need to let it go. But I never understood how. How can one just decide one day to feel better about everything? Maybe it just means to keep moving forwards. One step at a time, as we defend the Arafi from threats on the outside and within, until we finally confront Elric Lead. The Void will not protect them from us, not while we have Illyria at our side. Some more details on the pre-event have come to light, but primarily interesting right now is that Illyria was holding back. She was afraid of giving into her powers, which cost her Khadgar, and she won't let that happen twice. Now she's one of her most powerful agents against Zalatoth and her schemes. But this also comes with a bit of a downside, as Zalatoth has direct whispers with her. Walking so deep in the shadows, it has the risk of falling from the edge. But for now, she is on our side. We take out Elric, we fight off another Nerubian assault, and an advanced, real-time cutscene plays out. Its description says, "Therein, Illyria and player climb the ladder to the ship, only to see Anduin has been left behind. Anduin sees the Nerubians preparing a ballista that would take out the airship. He finds his resolve and jumps into the fray to stop them. Therein, Illyria and player watch in horror as Anduin is enveloped by the horde of Nerubians. We try to go after him, but you don't just fly into Ashkahet and not get captured into a web. Our final questing zone is not available for testing quite yet, and it's anyone's guess where Anduin ended up. Is he in the hands of the Nerubians that we are going to befriend, or is he once again having talks with the big bad? The parallels to the Shadowlands story are easily drawn, yet the character is in a very different spot. Anduin is worn down and he lost his conviction. They once upon a time had him pushed so far to the edge that a wisp of purple energy traveled down his arm, gathering in his palm. It happened in a blink, darkness spewing out of him, and he was made fun of, taunted that he was going to serve well.
The boy king serves at the master's table. 3 lives will he offer you.
That storyline was not used. It turned around in favor of him telling Sylvanas how wrong she was. But what about this time? Could we see Anduin give himself over to the darkness willingly? Could his complete plunge be the very thing that shows him his true nature? Bring him back in touch with who he really is, with a conviction to the light, or perhaps discipline, a balance between the light and void. And then the vibe that Zalatoth is giving so far in the story is that she's throwing things at us to play with, while her true plans, whatever they might be, they're running in the background. She's gathering the blood of the old gods. She is messing with Illyria. She has the Nerubians and the Queen working for her. I've been asked where else the story might take us in the future patches. And so far, one of the major things being built up, that is going beyond these storms, right? Going to meet the Emperor and the Arafi Empire. Then, going further, a big wish that I have is that Zalatoth is going to win at the end of the War Within. I hope that she is going to be either proven right in her convictions, or that she's just simply going to win, that she's too smart to be taken out, that the world at the end of War Within gets plunged in darkness, and then in the next expansion, which is Midnight, maybe a time skip, like 10 years of Azeroth being covered in the void and darkness. Like, what kind of world would that be? But even without a time skip, I would just like to see us lose for a change, to have an expansion end with us just, messing up at the end. Be like, okay, we have stopped Zalatoth, but actually Zalatoth is playing a completely different game. Of course, all of that is still very much future talk. For now, you're up to speed on the major story of Hallowfall. So, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. And until next time, see ya!